Hello and welcome. This week I have what I think is a wonderful win for the week, so I hope you stay all the way till the end. But before that, we're going to talk a little bit about why I feel, again, this is all my own opinion, why I feel teachers don't take the sick days that they should. We really do need to take them. So if you are a new teacher or if you are an experienced teacher and you don't take your sick days, please listen to what I think is going on and start taking care of yourself. Okay? So, again, my name is Stephanie Lynn, and these really are just my rantings and ravings about things that I have noticed over the last 24 years of teaching. I plan on retiring after this year. I came back to help this year. I was actually retiring the end of last year. And believe it or not, I tried retiring in 2019 as well. So this is kind of an ongoing process. I do think that teachers need to take care of themselves and recognize that there are a lot of people out there feeling the same things that you are feeling. And so this channel is just kind of one to share my opinions and let you know that if you feel the same way, you are not alone. So, here we go, kind of to the heart of the matter. Why don't teachers stay home when they're sick? One of the most germ-filled jobs outside of probably hospitals and plumbing. Okay, those two I know rank right up there. But we are surrounded by people all day long in a closed room, and a lot of them are sitting there sniffling, sneezing, coughing, all towards you because they are facing you working. And we really do need to start taking care of ourselves. I have taught and then found out I had pneumonia, which is not a good thing to do. So we really need to start thinking about ourselves a little bit more. I have, at the school I am at, I have 7 discretionary days I can take for whatever reason that I need to. I have never, in all the time I've been here, used all my days, except for the end of last year when I was retiring. And so I was purposely using that time just to get rid of it because it's not something we get paid out for if it's not used. I donated some to some people that needed it. We have meetings twice a month on Fridays. So even though we're on a 4-day week, teachers do tend to come in on Friday. And I used my sick days so I didn't have to go to meetings because I figured I was retiring. Why should I go to a meeting about what's going to happen next year? Little did I know, right? So again, we don't use our days. And I wanted to try and get into the mentality as to why we don't use our days. Because maybe if we can address the whys, we can convince ourselves that really isn't a good enough reason not to take the days off. And I realized as I'm thinking about pulling this together, there do tend to be 2 main reasons teachers don't take sick days. One of the main ones really boils down to guilt. A lot of schools don't have a substitute teacher list. They really don't even try to pull one together. My school does have a substitute teacher list. Again, it's a small town. We're very lucky. But when you start having people getting sick, that list isn't long enough. And a lot of times you have your coworkers covering your classes if you are out sick during their prep period. And so your fellow teachers are working straight through, especially if they have lunch duty. They may not get a chance to pee until 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And we feel guilty about that. Even though when somebody else is sick, we are perfectly willing, with a little grouching, to cover their classes because we know that if they're taking time off, they are sick. A lot of times the administration does that because teachers are willing to cover. But yeah, we as teachers a lot of times do not take our own sick days because we feel bad if our coworkers are the ones who are covering our class during their prep period. Okay, so that is one of the guilt things. The second guilt issue is we're trying to get through our curriculum. A lot of schools do state testing. And a lot of teachers are graded on how their students do for the state testing, which, again, that's a whole other thing. And trust me, I have a rant on that. But we feel guilty if we're not there to cover. We also feel a little scared if we're not there to cover because it means we're that much further behind. And any teacher who has taught for any length of time knows that at the beginning of the year, you have plans, assuming everything is going to go perfectly, and you know that by week 3, you're already a week behind. That's how it works. So you have all of this to cover. You can't spend a day homesick. Okay, you feel guilty taking that time for yourself, knowing, oh my goodness, it's just going to put me that much farther behind. And that's a horrible place to be. You can't stay home and relax and take care of yourself because your brain is going on and on about how you should be in the classroom getting through stuff. So even if you do take the day off, you're not getting the rest you need. We also feel bad because most of us are very controlling of who takes over our class. I'm trying to put this in as nice a set of words as I can. We personally feel that somebody's not going to teach our class as well as we can. We don't want anyone else standing up in front of there with our kids because they're not going to do it right. We have our way. That's the way we want it done. And if you're out sick, that's not the way it's happening. Generally speaking, most of us recognize that a substitute teacher is basically a warm body in there to make sure the kids stay in the classroom and don't screw around and, nobody gets hurt. Most subs are not qualified to teach a topic they are subbing for. Again, they're basically a warm body to take attendance and to just maintain some sort of control. And so we know that things aren't going to be going the way we want. And we want them to go a certain way. So we feel guilty that our students are not getting the quality education that we would give them if we are in the room. And again, this is a little weird sounding, but yeah, we like the way we run our classes and we don't want anyone else in there doing it differently. So there are these various layers of guilt going on. We don't want other people having to cover our class when they teach all day long. We don't want to put the students through a day of class that's basically lost with somebody who doesn't know how to teach covering the classes. There are other reasons that don't fall within that guilt category. And a reason that really doesn't have much to do with guilt, well, I guess it kind of does because you feel bad for the sub. I'm not sure why, and I know that this has been something since, when I was school, back when the dinosaurs were on the planet. Students are horrible to subs. It doesn't matter how well behaved they are in your classroom. A lot of the times when you have a sub, they are just little monsters. I have actually been teaching when a sub left another classroom less than halfway through the class in tears and walked out of the building. The kids actually drove her out. I personally tell my students that if I am ever absent and there is a sub, if I come back and there is a note from the sub that they misbehaved, the next day I will give them a full-length test that will cover anything from the beginning of the semester to wherever we are. They are going to treat that sub with respect. There is absolutely no reason for somebody to come into a classroom to try and help out, to be there to make sure the kids stay safe, and then to be treated with disrespect. But I have seen it happen. Like I said, I have seen a sub leave only a few minutes into class, I would say maybe 15, 20 at the most, crying. And she left the building, didn't come back, and, took her name off the sub list. So we lost a sub. Nobody should have to go through that. Okay? So we feel guilty for our coworkers. We feel guilty about the students losing a day of education. We feel guilty for possibly putting through the subs through torture. So that is all up in there. One of the other reasons that I think we don't take the sick days that we should. I don't know when this started, and I don't know why it's done. I mean, I do know why it's done because the school hopes that even though you are out, the teaching will continue. But everyone knows it won't. The sub is not qualified to teach a topic. The sub has been trained to keep bodies in their seats more or less, keep the volume down, and make sure everyone stays safe. But generally speaking, nobody's going to be able to come into my class and be able to teach balancing chemical equations or dimensional analysis or anything like that. So we are expected to have complete sub plans down to the minute for the sub. And the school hopes that they advance their knowledge within your subject. Generally speaking, what we end up doing is leaving worksheets or showing a movie. That's not good for anyone. But the fact that we are expected to write subplans that include, okay, if there's a fire drill, this is what you have to do. If you have questions, these are the students I trust that you can ask. Here is the phone number for the office. This is the seating chart. If these seats are blank, I have actually written on a subplan, if so-and-so student farts in this classroom, remind him that I will write him up. Why I should have to tell a sub that a student farts every day, I'm not sure. Why the student farts every day, I'm not sure. But yes, I have written that on subplans. Tell so-and-so if he farts, I'm going to write him up. We put more work into being out sick than it is if we just went ahead and went in while we were sick. And that is wrong too. I couldn't think of any other professional careers where if you took a day off sick, you spent hours prepping for someone to come in and take your place. Now, it really is easier for teachers to crawl in with 103-degree temperature and just sit at the desk and be the warm body themselves than to prep for somebody else to come in. So between the guilt that we feel when we are sick and the absolute overload of work it takes to actually stay home sick, it really is just easier to go in. But that's not healthy. Going in when you are sick is not healthy. So maybe something needs to change with how the subs are prepared. Maybe the school should just accept if you are out sick, they're going to watch a movie and do a worksheet. But it is really hard to take days off when you have between 20 and 40 in some cases students every hour. Okay, in middle school rotating through, in high school rotating through, in elementary school, oh my goodness, you have the same kids all day long. And they are dependent on you. And it just makes it really hard to take days off. We need to. We have to. The level of burnout in today's teaching population is crazy. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we don't take care of ourselves when we should. We don't take the days off that we need. Some days you just need a mental health break, and I will be talking about that. And that is just as valid as 103-degree temperature. Okay, don't think that it's not. It is just as valid. And yet I don't know many people at all who have ever taken a day just because they can't bear to go into work. So make sure you take your days off. I know that looking at these reasons, people outside of teaching are going to go, those reasons don't really make any sense. Just give over control. But again, I do think that as teachers, we are a little bit inclined to be control freaks. We control our classes. We maintain discipline in there. We help the students. They are our children in a way. We are invested in their safety, security, and education. And it is really hard to give that not really give it up, but to relinquish it for a day or two while you're homesick, taking care of yourself. Okay. But it needs to happen. It really does need to happen. And I am telling you, if you are watching this video, it is okay to take sick days. It is necessary to take sick days. Make sure that you do take them. Okay, now my win for the week. I have been waiting for the my 7th grade life science class just started with classification and types of organisms, and I got them on the microscopes for the first time this past week. I had been hoping that my order of protists would come in, but they didn't come in the time frame I was expecting. So I had the kids just doing prepared slides, and I made them, take time and give me drawings that actually showed what was underneath in the microscope. And I have to say that of all the years I've been teaching, the drawings I got from this 7th grade class are just amazing. They did an excellent job going between picking the right magnification for what they were looking at. So if they're looking at the leech, they stayed on the low magnification. If you're looking at the, I don't remember which one it is. It's a cross section of one of the plants, and I want to say it's a lily pad, but I could be wrong. But it kind of looks like a stained glass window. It's one of my favorite slides. And that's really good for your medium magnification, about 100 times. And then looking at the bacteria or the nerve cells, those really good for high power. Also, our scopes have the oil immersion, and I did not have to tell a single student at all not to switch to that lens. I talked to him about it when we talked about microscope and microscope use and how to carry and how to set up, but not one single time for really, I think the first time ever, I did not have to get onto somebody for trying to use oil immersion without having the appropriate oil or the slide to use for it. So I was really impressed with how they did. I was impressed with the fact that they didn't sit there and spin the fine focus knob. They did really good focusing on the coarse focus and then shifting up to the higher powers. And I just have to say, I was quite impressed. So I think my win for the week, even though we didn't have the live protist, they couldn't do wet mounts. We will still be doing those. We'll just do them in the next unit. They have their test on Tuesday. So we'll do them in the next unit when we do cell structure and function. And they'll get to look at all the different things that I ordered. But I do have to say that the drawings that they produced were absolutely amazing. I was quite impressed, and kind of gives me a little bit of hope that maybe some of this frenetic energy that's been in the air for so long might be calming down a bit. I don't know. I mean, it was only 1 week, but they were really focused. They were very considerate. They did an excellent job putting up the microscopes after every class. And I do have to say that is my win for the week, and I'm pretty happy with it. I hope you had a wonderful week as well. I hope when you look back on it, you can pick out those wins. And I do hope that going on into the future, you truly consider taking those sick days that you have, because they are important. Take care, and I will talk to you next week.